Before we jump in, this program contains material that may be unsuitable for some listeners. The content includes descriptions of violence, discussions about sex, and mental illness. We strongly recommend that listeners who are sensitive to these topics or are under 18 years of age refrain from listening. By continuing to listen, you acknowledge and accept this. All right, let's get started. It's early spring in California. Elliot has set up his camera by the roadside, looking into the lens.
I've been attending college in Santa Barbara for about 2.5 years now. And in those 2.5 years, I've experienced nothing but loneliness and misery. And my problem is girls. There are so many beautiful girls here, but none of them give me a chance, and I don't know why.
Here's Brian Whitney again, who wrote about Elliot Rodger and the day of retribution in the book, The Supreme Gentleman Killer.
And his goal is during the video to show that he's in his words, a perfect, magnificent gentleman, worthy of having a beautiful girlfriend.
I don't know why you girls are so repulsed by me. It doesn't make sense. I do everything I can to appear attractive to you. I dress nice. I'm sophisticated. I'm magnificent. I have a nice car, a BMW. Well, it's nicer than 90% of the people at my college. I'm polite. I'm the ultimate gentleman. And yet, you girls, you can never give me a chance.
When Elliot stands by the roadside, speaking into the camera, there's a plan within him. The preparations have begun.
He bought a Glock 34 semi-automatic pistol. He called this the first act of preparation for his attacks, and he said he did it quickly and hastily at a local gun shop. Is what he wrote.
Elliot has now bought a gun.
And then he bought a Sig Sauer. That's Sauer, which he said was a lot more efficient than the Glock, much higher quality. He bought that in December.
I mean, this world is so beautiful, but it's so sad and depressing when I have to experience it all alone. And I have to watch other guys able to walk around and enjoy their lives with beautiful girlfriends at their side. And I can only imagine how amazing their sex lives must be. I've never had any sex or anything like that. It's such an injustice. I don't know why you girls hate me so much. I've always wished I could ask you this, and this is my way of asking you this. This is the only way I can ask you.
In his mind, these videos were his, quote, attempt to reason with the female gender, to ask them why they mistreated me.
Even though he feels that this is something he must do, there are still doubts.
I mean, when you think about what he's planning on doing, it's hard to tell how much of it is a desire to back out, because he realizes that what he's planning on doing is totally batshit crazy, or how much of it. I don't think that's it. I think it's more that he's afraid to kill himself, one, but two, he just keeps hoping that potentially something someday will work out.
You are listening to The Incel Killer, a story in 5 parts about how a young man could develop such a hatred towards people in general and women in particular that he decides to kill them all. My name is Jonathan Rollins. And if you like this series, don't forget to follow us so you'll know as soon as we release a new episode. But now we begin. This is Chapter 5, The Day of Retribution. It is around this time, in spring 2014, that Elliot begins to publish his videos on YouTube.
Some of them were prepared to make him look really cool. There's one where he's dancing around, walking on sunshine by Katrina and the Waves, in others, you know, he winking at the camera.
Hey, Elliot Rodger here. Right now I'm just taking a walk through the park in this really nice, secluded area.
Yeah, so he has one that he put up called "I'm Awesome."
And here I am at Serrania Park. The most significant place of my childhood. My parents used to take me here when I was 6 years old. I have some very happy memories here. That's where my father taught me how to swing.
His hope is that some girl will reach out to him and tell him how handsome he is.
He'd lose his virginity, and then he wouldn't have to kill everybody. You know, so this is still, as he's doing this to like plan it, he's still hoping, you know, that he won't have to do so.
Even though Elliot has his plan to murder and torture both girls and boys, he still hopes here, just a few weeks before, that he will be spared, that someone will start to like him, so he doesn't have to carry out his dreadful plan. His manifesto is completed. It's 140 pages long. It is his life story.
It's like, I hate to even say this, but if anyone wants to like read like a very interesting book related to like watching about abnormal psychology and seeing somebody deteriorate, you know, it's a fascinating, I found it like could be a fascinating book.
In addition to the events, opinions, and thoughts we have mentioned, his hatred towards women is especially evident in the manifesto.
So the thing that really stands out about the manifesto are really just, he really spells out like his hatred for women and for sexuality in a way that is very direct. I mean, he states that women should not have the right to choose who to mate and breed with. All their decisions should be made by men of intelligence, which obviously is him, you know, and like who knows who else he thinks is intelligent.
Elliot believes that women should have no rights at all, that women have sex with stupid men and have stupid children. He thinks that sex should not exist in a perfect world. He wants to ban sex and have all women locked up.
You know, so he's basically propagating like, you know, rounding up all women, you know, killing the ones that like resist, and like putting the rest of them in like a big pen or something where you like just throw like, you know, slop over and have like a water bowl in like the corner.
Elliot writes that future generations of men will be unaware of the existence of women, and that's for the best. That it's the only way to cleanse the world. That men's brains will evolve, and he sees himself as the hero, with grand plans to build a huge monument of himself.
And, you know, he also believes that he's going to be a divine ruler, you know, of this new society. Even throughout the conversation that we're having about this obviously completely ill man, you know, you get into this stuff and it's just like it's just crazy, man.
And soon it's time. Elliot sends the manifesto to his father, his mother, and to his life coach.
So after his mom saw the manifesto, she read it, looked at it briefly, then went to see the YouTube channel that she'd already been monitoring because of like the weird videos that he already put up.
And Elliot's mother starts watching the latest video there.
It's an extremely disturbing video, not just for what he says, but his effect is so, it's like he's acting, you know?
Hi, Elliot Rodger here. Well, this is my last video. It all has to come to this. Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity. Against all of you.
I mean, it's like his effect is so off, you know, he's just, he knows the camera's on him, he's making little faces, like, you know, he's saying all these incredibly scary things, like,
you will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one. The true alpha male.
When you're looking at that scene, like a big part of it is like, what's actually going on here, you know? because he's sitting in this BMW, like making this face, like kind of like sneering, like like he's reading things in a tone of voice that he doesn't really talk like.
At this time, when Elliot's mother sees the video, it's hard to imagine that what Elliot is saying is something he actually plans to do.
Like at one point he says, "I hate all of you. Humanity is a disgusting, wretched, depraved species. If I had it in my power, I would stop at nothing to reduce every single one of you to mountains of skulls and rivers of blood." And rightfully so,
Dark force of horrible energy that hit me.
Here's Elliot's father again about when they see the video.
What were your fears for him?
I felt for his life. I didn't know what he was doing. And then suddenly he's saying he's going to do other things to other people. I was confused. I just wanted to go and find him and talk to him. I mean, we were driving up there not knowing what to do, trying to get information.
The parents are desperate, confused, but they still have no idea what's about to happen. And now it's the morning of May 24th, 2014, and Elliot's dreadful day of retribution begins.
It's wild when you think about, after all that this went on, that he just wakes up one morning and he's actually like, okay, I'm doing it. He's been thinking about this for years. It's the kind of thing one would think he's never, because what the hell? No one would assume that he's actually, even him saying he's going to do it. Like if I knew him and he was saying he was going to do it, I'd still be like, yeah, that guy's not going to do it. So anyway, he wakes up this morning. It's going to turn his place into a torture chamber.
Elliot wakes up in the morning. He's made up his mind. He takes out his knife and waits for his roommates to come home. First comes Wei-Han Wang. He defends himself, but Elliot has a large hunting knife.
So that he killed them one by one.
Then Chen Hong comes home to the apartment, and Elliot attacks him as well.
One roommate was stabbed 15 times, another one was stabbed 25 times.
Elliot drags their bodies into their bedrooms, covers them with blankets, and lets them lie there.
Make the police believe that he killed one with a knife and then tried to clean it up to the extent so then when the next one entered, they also wouldn't see that there was blood all over the place.
After a while, there's a knock at the door. Wei-Han and Chen's friend stops by. Elliot opens, and George probably notices that something's wrong. There are bloodstains in the hallway, and a commotion arises between them. But Elliot has the knife, and after stabbing George Chen 94 times, he drags him into the bathroom.
So basically he lost it. He at this point, he's just completely gone.
No one knows how long he sat there between the murders, waiting. Elliot has never fought before, except that one time when he was very drunk, but he has never done anything violent to anyone else, until now.
Killing someone with a knife is really hardcore, it's and now he's killing these people by hand with a knife and dragging their bodies, and it's just wild. And then you gotta wonder, as he's sitting in there after he kills these three guys, is he sitting there all excited, oh, finally it's time for me to go out and do what I'm doing, or is he just what have I done?
No one knows what Elliot is thinking here, or afterwards. But now he has his torture chamber ready at least. But how will he get people there? He has no idea. No one wanted to come into his apartment earlier, so why would they want to come there now?
He's now it's time for me to bring people into my how's that gonna happen? Obviously he didn't think that part out. So the torture chamber never occurs.
It's not known how long he sits in the apartment with the bodies of 3 dead people. It is known that at 7:30 p.m., he buys a coffee at Starbucks. Around 8:30 p.m., he sits at his computer, and at 9:17 p.m., he uploads his video titled Day of Retribution on YouTube. And minutes later, he sends his manifesto to his mom and dad.
I am going to enter the hottest sorority house of UCSB. And I will slaughter every single spoiled, stuck-up, blonde slut I see inside there.
It's now 9:27 p.m. on the evening of May 24th. And it's time for Elliot's next attack.
Like, he drives his BMW to the Alpha Phi sorority.
He's been here many times before. He sat here, outside in his car, hoping that some pretty girl will come out, see his BMW, and come talk to him.
He's like, this is where the hottest women go. So he goes up and he knocks on the door, and, like, no one answers it. He's like, oh, they're going to let me in, and I'm just going to, like, slaughter all of these women and, you know, like, do whatever else he wanted to do. But no one answered it.
No, Elliot's plan isn't working so well. He thinks it's his big day, his day of retribution. But nothing is going his way. And no one wants to enter his torture chamber. And he isn't allowed into Alpha Phi.
So he basically just got back in his car and just started, like, just killing anyone he saw.
I'll take to the streets of Isla Vista and slay every single person I see there.
So we first saw two women. One's name was Bianca DeCock, and another one was Veronica Weiss and Catherine Cooper, so three women.
They see a black BMW coming towards them.
So he slowed down with his BMW, and, you know, he rolled down the window, and she heard something that sounded like gunfire and felt pain in his shoulder and fell to the ground.
Break 25, gunshots heard in the area, Del Norte.
Bianca, Veronica, and Catherine collapse. Bianca starts screaming, I'm going to die, as she lies on the sidewalk. A policeman comes over and holds her, pressing on the gunshot wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Bianca survives despite being hit by several shots. But for Veronica Weiss and Catherine Cooper, it's too late. They both die there on the sidewalk.
This one on sample for Del Norte, white male, 20 years old. Has been shot in front of the break office.
Nothing went as planned. Elliot had failed with his torture chamber. He didn't get into the fraternity house. He's now sitting in his car, shooting out of the window.
You know, so, like, he's now just like a lunatic on the street, just like attacking like random people.
It's night. He drives along narrow streets, residential houses, two-story buildings. There aren't many people out. The palm trees sway in the darkness.
23, we have 2 black and 1 red at Segovia and Del Norte. We need medics here now.
As soon as he sees someone on the sidewalks, he reaches out, aims the gun, and shoots.
Thank you, we got another gunshot. No, shots fired.
Elliot continues. He turns onto Pardall Road, trying to run over people he sees, shooting out of the car window.
Thing 19 updates with witness. It was a dark-colored BMW.
He drives a few blocks and shoots indiscriminately into a closed cafe, then continues down the same street. He approaches a small deli. Elliot stops the car and shoots into the deli.
Thank you, we got another gunshot. Victim at shots fired.
Christopher Michaels Martinez is standing in front of the deli when he hears gunfire. He and some others try to flee into the deli. They get the door open, but a bullet hits Christopher, killing him.
I didn't so much hear the gun at first, but I heard the glass breaking, just the shatter of the glass.
Elliot continues to shoot into the deli.
I had just turned, I saw him fall, and I kind of tucked my hand on my head and turned down and ducked behind the counter. We sat there and watched this kid bleed to death. He was no less than 2 feet away from me.
And then he drives away, shooting randomly at people.
He's pulling up in his car and just shooting random people. This is not his plan, even slightly. And he's just hitting people with his car. He's driving on the wrong side of the street, Flip totally lost his mind, obviously, basically.
Patrol copies, we also have a report of a subject with a head injury, Del Playa and Del Sur. Del Playa and Del Sur.
What is the report from law enforcement?
The madness continues down the street. He drives on the wrong side of the road and hits a person trying to run across. The insanity continues. Bailey Maples has just come out of a restaurant with her friend, Erin Zaglin, when she sees a black BMW pull right up next to them.
Do not enter Isla Vista.
The window rolls down, and Elliot says something Bailey doesn't catch.
23, we have 2 black and 1 red. It's Segovia and Del Norte. We need medics here now.
Elliot laughs and pulls out the gun, aims it at her, and starts shooting. She runs back into the restaurant, but is hit in the arm. The shots continue to whiz around her, and the windows shatter at the restaurant.
You know, the people he's attacking could very well be like people just like him at this point. He doesn't know. It's like he's just...
But Elliot has completely lost it. He shoots at anyone he sees, hitting a female cyclist in the leg and running over a skateboarder, injuring people.
I jumped on the sidewalk and I see a man on a BMW, his body inside the windshield, glass broken everywhere, and now he's 100 feet that way.
100 feet?
At least his body carried on with the car. He went down a few blocks.
Elliot turns and drives east on Del Playa Drive, then makes a U-turn and drives west, where he meets Officer Adrian Marquez. Marquez is walking on the street when he sees the BMW drive by. He shoots at it, and Elliot shoots back. Neither of them hit. Elliot drives on.
Okay, we got another gunshot. No, shots fired, shots fired.
Hannah Miller and Sierra Swartz are walking in the area. Out of nowhere, a black BMW comes speeding towards them and stops in the middle of the road.
He lifted up a little black pistol, and I just thought it was an airsoft gun or something. So I was like, hey, what up? And I turned around and I started walking the other way.
They turn around and run, entering a yard and banging on the door.
And then he shot. I just felt the wind pass right by my face, and I was like, what the f?
Even though Elliot's day of retribution doesn't go as he hoped, he causes incredible devastation. Meanwhile, Elliot's mother and father are driving towards Isla Vista to try to talk to him. They had seen the video. They had read his manifesto.
They were listening to the radio on the way, and they were hearing about there's an actual mass shooting. They hear on the radio there's a mass shooting, in Santa Barbara, Isla Vista. The dad, Peter, keeps trying to call Elliot. He's not picking up. No answer.
Elliot's parents call the police to try to find out what's happening.
Peter said later, he said, I didn't know what Elliot was doing. I just wanted to go and find him, talk to him, do something, hold him, talk reason to him. So he kept hitting redial over and over again. But Elliot didn't pick up.
Here's Elliot's father again.
I was hearing, reports of a black BMW, and I was going, oh, no. And we were on the phone at the same time to the police, and they were saying, we don't have any information for you, no information.
They get in touch with the police and are asked to stay in a parking lot near the town.
Segovia and Del Norte. We need medics here now.
Meanwhile, Elliot sits in his car. He encounters 4 officers on foot near Little Acorn Park. Elliot shoots at them, but misses.
And we have 30 down. Let's fire Segovia and Del Norte. I need 3 ambulances here.
The officers shoot back as Elliot quickly drives away.
It's a black BMW.
One of the shots hits Elliot in the hip. Suddenly, the police are everywhere and chasing Elliot. He's injured, bleeding. He's killed 6 people and injured 14 others. 8 minutes after the first shot, it's over. Elliot crashes.
The point of it is that, yeah, it's like it's not only that he just had this incredibly like awful, horrific, bizarre plan, but then it was a complete disaster. I mean, like none of it like went even. I can't even imagine like what was going on in his mind at that point, because he's dying. He knows he's dead. He's either going to prison or he's going to kill himself. And he didn't even like, after everything that happened, he's just like driving, like shooting at some random guy in a deli. You know what I'm saying? It's like nothing like that he envisioned or planned. Yeah, so
Elliot is dead, 22 years old.
When they came up to the car, he was already dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
I'm gonna take that all away from you. Just like you took it from me. If I can't join you, I will destroy you. And girls, if I can't have you, I will destroy you all.
You know, again, in his last thing, I'm Elliot Rodger, magnificent, glorious, supreme, eminent, divine. I'm the closest thing there is to a living God, you know? On the day of retribution, I'll truly be a powerful God, punishing everyone I deem to be impure and depraved. And instead, on the day of retribution, he's banging on the door of the sorority and they're not even like letting him in, you know? So like, you know, it's even in his horrific acts that are tragic and took lives. And I'm not trying to minimize like, you know, the result of what he did. It was incredibly impactful to a lot of people, but he still didn't accomplish like one, not even the slightest thing that he just became kind of like a bigger joke than he was when he was alive, if you know what I'm saying.
In an interview on ABC, Elliot's father, Peter, talks about how he feels about everything that has happened.
Every night I go to sleep, I wake up, and I think of those young men and young women that have died, and that were injured, and were terrorized. And my son did that. It's like a reverse nightmare situation. When you go to sleep normally, you have a nightmare and you wake up and, oh, everything's okay.
Yeah.
Now I go to sleep, I might have a nice dream. And then I wake up and then slowly the truth of what happened dawns on me. And, you know, that is that my son was a mass murderer. And then I think about the victims and I think about what he did.
A few days after Elliot Rodger's rampage, classified as a hate crime, several thousand people gather at the University of California, Santa Barbara, to remember.
I would ask that we now pause for a moment of silent remembrance.
The university chancellor is on stage.
We remember the joy and the light they brought to this world. Their contributions to our university will never be forgotten.
Richard Martinez, father of one of the victims, Chris Martinez, speaks about U.S. gun laws.
It's time to stop the gun violence. Our children deserve a land free from fear. Son, you will live in our hearts forever and ever.
If you agree that the people in Washington should hear that not one more person should have to die because of this ridiculous situation, then when I raise my hand, I want you to shout so loud that they're going to hear you. Are you with me? Not good enough. One more time. Are you with me?
Not one more! Not one more!
Ali Guthie, representing the student council at the school, takes the microphone.
Here are the names of the 6 members of our community as we remember them. George Chen, Catherine Cooper, James Hong, Christopher Ross Michaels Martinez, David Wang, Veronica Weiss.
Elliot Rodger was certainly not the first person to develop such a strong hatred towards women, leading to a hate crime. However, he may have been the first to articulate these thoughts in a manifesto. His violent act drew attention to a group of people, mostly men, who called themselves incels. The mass shooting in Isla Vista in 2014 was the first terrorist act carried out by an incel, but sadly not the last. For instance, in 2018, a van plowed into a crowd at a restaurant in Toronto. That same year, a person indiscriminately opened fire inside a yoga studio in Tallahassee, Florida. And in 2019, someone opened fire at a courthouse in Dallas, Texas. What they all have in common is that they are all men who claim allegiance to this movement, a movement that idolizes Elliot Rodger. Although only a small fraction of the incel movement embraces violence, security agencies around the world are keeping an eye on this movement, considering it a terrorist threat. You've just listened to the final chapter of The Incel Killer, a podcast series in 5 chapters. My name is Jonathan Rollins. The series is made by Jens Nielsen and Tomas Rajnai. The executive producer is Tove Friman Leffler. This is a production of PodLit.